So I just scrolled past the post about DEI or something, and I don't even remember what it was about specifically. The point is, now I'm about to talk about DEI and affirmative action and stuff like that, right? And before I get into this conversation, I want to point something out because this is I think important to the conversation. The majority of people who benefited from DEI or affirmative action or whatever were white women, because technically white women are a marginalized identity because they're women, okay? Now, I'm pointing that out because what I noticed about all of the conversations about DEI and all of this stuff, right, is that black people were the face of these conversations, okay? And a lot of times black people get made the face of stuff that really ain't even got nothing to do with us. So let's get into it. So I want to open this conversation up talking about a game show, okay? And this game show, this is decades ago, maybe the 50s or 60s. I don't remember what it's called. If somebody knows what I'm talking about, they can drop it in the comments. Please do help me out, right? But there was this game show, and only white men were allowed to go on it at this time, okay? So on the show, you answered questions, and if you got them correct, you won, whatever, right? Now, one day, the first white woman competes on this game show. Okay. And would you all believe that they made the questions harder for her? Right? So she had harder questions than the white guys. I wonder why. Okay. But we'll talk about that in a second, right? But despite this, she still won. She still won. Okay. Now, this brings up a conversation about DEI and affirmative action and all of this stuff, right? If all things were equal, then she should have gone on that game show and gotten the same questions as the white guys, right? Why would her questions be harder? Okay. And then this is my other thing, because we haven't even like really looked into any of the background yet. Realistically, at that time, a woman was probably less educated than a man, because women were encouraged to stay in the house and, only men went off to school and all of that stuff, right? So not only did she probably, not have the same educational training as these men, but then when she got to the competition, they tried to make it harder for her even on top of that, right? And let's be for real. If she had lost that competition because the questions were harder for her, right? Do you think that white men would have been like, oh, well, that's understandable. Her questions were hard. I couldn't even answer those, right? No, they would have been talking about, oh, yeah, that's why women aren't as smart. They shouldn't be on this show, so and so and so. But you made the questions harder for her. So what point did you really just prove? Now, look at that situation just between white men and white women, right? Even between white men and white women, at the time, a white man was probably more educated because, again, women were encouraged to stay in the house and so and so and so. And then when this woman went to compete, they made the questions harder, right? Now, imagine if instead of that being a white woman, right, instead she was a black woman or a black man in that time. Then we get into even more nuance where it's like, is it even really fair, right? First of all, it's not fair at all to give this person harder questions. But realistically, could we be mad? Could we be mad if a black person went on that show and couldn't answer the normal questions, considering the fact that most black people had to leave school to help their families during the harvest season and stuff, right? Is it really a shock that a black person might do worse at this game show, even with the base level questions? Forget about having harder questions, right? Given the fact that while white people are in school learning, we have to leave to help sharecrop and stuff, right? Like, does that really mean that the black person is stupid, or does that mean that they did not have the same opportunities that you had? I run into this a lot because you guys know I've been saying, oh, I'm planning to apply to medical school, right? And there are always people saying, oh, black people matriculate into medical school with lower stats, lower MCAT scores, so and so, yada, yada, yada. But can you really be mad? considering the state of black schools. Like let's be for real. As somebody, y'all, I was a teacher for years. I was a chess coach, all of this other stuff, right? So I went around to different schools, okay? So I would go to black schools to teach chess, I would go to white schools, I would go to Asian schools, etc., etc., etc. There was a very, very clear difference in the schools depending on what the demographic of children was. Like the black schools I went to, there was never first of all, I think only like one school had a library, right? Forget about having a dedicated librarian or anything like that, right? Forget about that, okay? The library was basically like for storage, right? But when you went to them white schools and them Asian schools, they had a full-time librarian working in there. The classes, the kids were scheduled to go to the library however often for reading time and so and so and so. That's one of the big differences I saw in these schools, right? My point is this. When you make sure that black schools are underfunded, because another thing is these schools are funded by property taxes, right? You would think that the government would say, well, all kids deserve an equal education, so we're going to give each school this amount of money for each pupil, whatever, right? But no, they're funded by property taxes. And look at the property around the black schools. It's falling off the bone. It's dilapidated. One time I pulled up to a school for an interview. Y'all, it was in Brightmoor. I thought it was abandoned. I'm not joking. I was like, oh, I don't know if I should get out my car over here. Like, y'all, I'm not joking. But just imagine though, that school is being funded off the property taxes of the shit around it. And it's nothing but abandoned buildings and like industrial shit. You know what I'm saying? So now we go through this for years and years and years, right? And let's put it back in into the lens of decades ago, right? Okay, black kids are forced to leave school to sharecrop and shit while white kids are going to school. So can we really be surprised that the black kids don't do as good on the test as the white kids? I mean, that kind of like makes sense when all things are considered. Can you really say that black people are not as smart as you because they didn't do as well on this test when you spent your whole life prepping for this, right? Private tutors, this, that, your school got money. And black folks, we was out sharecropping on the harvest seasons. Like, is that really a fair conclusion to come to? And then let's get into something else, right? Because you all insist that your issue is not with, qualified black people matriculating. It's just with, unqualified black people, lower scores, so and so and so. There was a statistic about Harvard University that said 43% of Harvard students were legacy admission. Okay, and those are white students, because we all know ain't no black folks, no legacy admission at Harvard. Bookie. My parents grew up in the Jim Crow era. So yeah, they were not allowed to go to Harvard. There's no way I could be a legacy admission there. Like, what are we talking about, right? So 43% of students at Harvard are legacy admissions, and 75% of those legacy admissions would not have been able to go to Harvard on merit. But y'all don't have no issue with that. Y'all don't have no problem with that, right? Your only problem is allegedly that the black students weren't merited enough. Really? Like, with all things considered, you're a Harvard legacy student. Like, baby, clearly you got connects. You got money for private tutors, private schooling, private whatever, right? And you still could not meet the merit requirements of Harvard. Is that at all the same? Is that a fair comparison to a black person who didn't meet the merit requirements because they don't have any of the fucking resources or access that y'all have? Like, that's not a fair comparison to make. Then you know what else hit my mind? And I was just like, bro, what are we talking about? Like, and this happened relatively recently, maybe like last year. This was years into all of the DEI conversations, bro. Go to any school. I'm not even talking medical school or law school or any like, anything like that. I'm talking about go to any old regular ass falling off the bone undergrad program, okay? And take a look around. How many black people are you going to see? Realistically, it's not going to be a lot at all. So you telling me that your issue is the 4 black folks in the program, the program that got thousands and thousands of people. Your issue is the handful of black people in the program. That's what you focused on? Like, that's what made me like, what? When I sat there and I actually thought about it, it ain't even no black people in the damn schools. And y'all mad at the one black person that's there? Like, what are we talking about? Y'all would really look at the state of systemic injustice in this country, right? Y'all will literally see that black schools are dilapidated, right? And not because of us, literally because the government funds them in a way to make sure that black schools will receive less funding, right? And then you'll really be like, yeah, but I'm smarter than you and I got a better test score because I worked hard. Really? Like, that's really the conclusion that you came to? I don't think you're smart at all. Honestly, I don't think you're smart at all. The reality is this: when all things are considered, right, and made equal, right, when black kids go to good schools and get a good education and are not forced into the worst schools this country has to offer, right, black kids do just as good as you all. In fact, we do better. Like, that's the wild thing. That's the crazy thing, right? That is the funny part about it all. I made this point in a video that I made before on this topic, right? Y'all issue is not actually about DEI or affirmative action or people getting things that they weren't, merited enough for. Because if that was y'all issue, y'all would have started with them legacy admissions. Y'all definitely would have, right? Because this is hundreds and thousands of them. Y'all would have started there. That's the biggest fish you could possibly fry in this conversation, right? But no, y'all don't care about that. Not only did you not start there, y'all refuse to even acknowledge that, right? Oh, whenever this DEI and affirmative action and stuff get brought up, y'all won't even bring up the legacy admissions, right? Because it's not actually about DEI or affirmative action or you being mad that somebody got something that they didn't work hard enough for, right? The issue is about the fact that you believe that no matter what, even if a black person does work hard, they don't deserve shit. If you really took issue with affirmative action and, black students matriculate into medical school with slightly lower scores, so and so and so, then you would address this unequal system. You would say, well, of course there's going to be a difference in the test scores when black schools are quite literally underfunded. Like, quite literally, you can go Google, do all public schools receive the same funding? And it's going to say, nope, it's based off the property taxes. And this creates some, inequality because, black schools are surrounded by less expensive property and a bunch of abandoned buildings and stuff. So yeah, duh, right? If you really took issue with this whole shebang, that's where you would start. That's where you would start, right? Closing that gap, making sure that all students receive the same education in this country, right? But that's not your problem. That's not your problem. Your problem is that you're okay with inequality at the expense of black people, and you're mad that any black person got any crumb of the motherfucking cake. That's what you're actually mad about. Because again, if it was about DEI and folks not deserving their spot, then you would have started with them legacy admissions, but you didn't, for a reason.